Speaking to Andrew Otike Odibi, Executive Director at CNI Leasing, to give us his thoughts on the results released just yesterday. The first quarter numbers, like you mentioned, turnover was up 15%, and the company has indeed returned to a profit after posting a loss last year. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
First of all, give us a sense of how the business is structured right now in terms of business lines. I know you're into leasing, obviously, but it seems the company has changed significantly over the last few years. You're now into car rentals. You're into equipment leasing, obviously, outsourcing and logistics. Give us a sense of the contribution of the various arms to that top line number that we saw.
Okay, traditional business, being a finance lease business, contributes about 15% to top line figures. Then we have the car rentals, which has the Hertz brand with it. That's maybe another 20%. Then we have the equipment rentals, that's where we have the heavy equipment like the vessels and cranes. That adds maybe around 20%. Then the biggest chunk comes from the outsourcing, personnel outsourcing.
So strategically, how are you growing the business now? Like you mentioned, it has changed quite a bit. Leasing's contribution is much less.
Yes.
Going forward, what should we expect?
Well, I think we can look at the same ratio of contribution going forward, because each aspect of the business is growing at the same pace. So at the end of the day, you have everything still adding up together at the same ratios.
And then let's talk a bit about the car rental business. Strategically, how are you driving that growth? We know the likes of Lagos State are supporting that with the modern taxis that we've seen. Give us a sense about what else you're doing along those lines with other state governments.
Okay, when you talk about the car rental business, don't mix it up with the taxi business.
Okay, of course.
Because we're also in the taxi business where we have the red cabs. For the taxi business, yes, we have over 400 vehicles in Lagos now, and we are doing the same thing for where we provide some cars for Ekiti, but we're looking at going to Kwara State to do the same thing. But all this is still in discussion stage now. Strategically for the taxi business, we're looking at going to as many states as possible that understand the scheme and are willing to partner with us. Now for the car rental business, we have grown that business extensively, especially with the downturn, because a lot of companies don't want to own cars any longer. They want to rent them for a short period or a long period, depends on what kind of structure they want to work with. And that has helped us grow our fleet now to almost 1,000 vehicles across the country. Yeah, we are supporting major companies now and providing them cars, moving their staff from one place of the country, one location to the other. These kind of companies, we're talking about manufacturing, major manufacturing companies, and we recently signed another contract last week for the 300 vehicles for one of those companies.
How is the higher interest rate environment affecting your business?
Well, like every other business in Nigeria, it impacts negatively on your bottom line, and it puts a lot of stress on the business. But well, we're living with it. Last year we saw some reduction in the rates, and if you look at our numbers for last year, you will see clearly the impact of that, because it was good. Now, being a leasing company, we are highly geared, and so most of our funds are borrowed, and so a slight reduction in interest rates has a significant impact on our bottom line.
And then to what extent can you pass this higher interest rates to
well, I'll give you a typical example. Our business is fairly what you call a long-term structured business. You go into a lease for 3 years or 4 years, but you cannot midway, well, very few instances, go back and tell the client you want to move up the rate because the interest rates have gone up. So you find out that, and over that period, you might have the interest rates in the market going up 4 notches, yeah, and that negatively impacts on your business.
So going forward, how are you dealing with the challenges of financing your business? We know 2 years ago you did do that deal where you had a convertible bond and the likes of Arios invested in your business.
Yes.
What's the way forward in terms of financing going forward?
Well, in terms of financing, we're looking at going to the market to raise a bond, and that will be better priced than the commercial bank funding we have. With that, we should see our interest costs dropping significantly, and I think that will make significant impact on the bottom line.
Any timelines for that transaction?
2-3 months.
2-3 months from now?
Yes.
All right. And maybe any final words to investors? We know the market is somewhat dull right now. What should they expect from CNI for the year end?
Well, for last financials were not too fantastic, but what I'll tell investors is we're just coming out of a period of consolidation. So we had 2 subsidiaries which were just giving birth to, and those subsidiaries are now in positions to post profits. And in addition to that, CNI Leasing as a company has acquired a lot of experience and traction. So I think that from now on, we're going to see the business posting good profits, and the investors themselves will be happy.
Right. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us. Andrew Otike Odibi, Executive Director at CNI Leasing.